welcome to the September lecture series. Today we're going to be looking at the Health and Human Development revision slides. So a bit about me before we start. I'm Chanel Noir and I graduated from Clarendon in 2021 with an ATAR of 97.35. I got a raw 46 in health, which I did in 2020. So during COVID, very fun. I'm currently in my second year of undergrad med at Monash Uni. So this was from our recent uni ball. This is me trying to get and failing to get Taylor Swift tickets from the Ticketek monster nightmare terrible experience line and queue. That was awful. We forgive but we don't forget. And she's releasing Taylor's version of 1989 on my birthday, so that's kind of cool. Hopefully that's a good sign. And these are the kind of notes that you can expect to be taking if you are looking at med or maybe biomed for your anatomy classes. This was from our recent trip to Bangladesh last year, which was really nice to go back after COVID and everything and see family and food, recent foods. Love Thai food. And this was when I tried to do the spicy peanut noodle like stir fry thing that's been sort of going around on TikTok, and I swear that it tasted a little bit better than it looks. And then this is from the many V-line adventures that I take to get back to Ballarat on the weekends from uni. Okay, so today we're going to be looking at all four areas of study, and we've got we've split them up into the different units and the different areas of study. The Slido link for the live chat Q&A should hopefully be on the webpage somewhere. So if you want to ask questions while we go through it, if you're here right now when it's first being released and not just watching the recording afterwards, then feel free to ask me questions and hopefully I'll be able to get to all of them. The slides can also be found hopefully somewhere on the webpage as well. So you can annotate as we go along. And definitely have some water with you while you're doing it, especially if you're trying to get through this whole 2 hours in one sitting, because you're going to be here a while, especially if you're doing it as it's being released as well. Okay, so we've got our first area of study here. We've got the physical, social, emotional, mental, and spiritual dimensions. You should all be very, very familiar with the dimensions of health and well-being by now. So the buzzwords, a little key here, the buzzwords in and around and within this set of slides is going to be highlighted. The dimensions are underlined, so whenever there's a link to a health and well-being dimension, it's going to be underlined. And then the examples are in green, not just the examples, but like the sort of cause and effect, like the links, like the logical bits in between the different buzzwords to sort of like get to the next point in your response. Those are also in green, and I'll show you what I mean when we get to a model answer, and I'll show you what bits I'm talking about and what parts of the response you should definitely be focusing on and making sure you include. And then we've got illness and the dynamic and subjective nature of these concepts. We've got the benefits of optimal health and well-being, so the importance individually, nationally, and globally, and so the examples that fall under each of these three sort of different, but definitely like linked and related concepts. You've got the WHO prerequisites, so the 9 of these. Hopefully you have examples or cue cards and notes for each of them, especially knowing like what each of them like sort of means. And you don't need to know like a word for word definition, but it's especially if you haven't been given them in class. But it's good to have like a one sentence identifying, describing sentence for each of these to like sort of know at least in your head what they mean and what they refer to. But also in case you need to like answer an identify question or like outline what the prerequisite of food means, of what, and especially with like stable ecosystem, sustainable resources, social justice, equity, those kind of ones definitely come up. So finding like the right buzzwords to and like sentences to describe them is going to be very helpful to you in your revision. And then indicators for health status, we should all be used to including these in our answers. Then we've got the health status of Australians and the different factors that contribute to variations between groups. These are the groups. Contribution to Australia's health status and burden of disease of all of these risk factors, including dietary risk factors as well. Okay, so the key skills, those are the key knowledge points. These are the key skills. I very much highly suggest starting to organize like your revision and everything like that under like each dot point from the study design. So these are both from both of these slides and the topic slides, like the topic description slides, are from the study design. And yeah, so it's super easy to like organize everything and place where everything is and what topic everything is under, and make sure that you've like got enough detail that you're not missing out on points in study design, missing out on content, and like covering all the gaps in your content. Excuse me. It's a very useful tool. Like the study design is there to guide you in your learning, and it's everything that you're learning. So if you want to start making like a Google Doc or a Word doc, or even like at the back of your notebook, whatever you're using to revise and to keep your notes organized, or even like blank piece of paper as well, and then stapling them together or binding them together some way. Um, just writing like out or like printing out or doing something with the study design points, and then putting down like and writing out or typing out all of the content that's associated with that point, and also how to answer questions and like tips and like example questions and responses under each study design point, as well as like questions that you might have gotten wrong during SACs under each point. So say that you got like a um, 4-mark question wrong on interrelationships, put that under it. And that's why it's always useful to do it digitally as well, because then you can like reshuffle things super easily. And yeah, it's easier to reshuffle everything and add in extra bits when you remember it, add in extra bits when you learn it. Um, Top tip for uni, actually. That's why a lot of people go digital. Um, Anyways, you can, yeah, use the study design dot points to help you out. All right. So I'll let you peruse these for a bit longer. So we've got the dynamic and ever changing, dynamic being ever changing. So those two words you can use interchangeably. And then it's related to the sort of ideas of chronic versus acute conditions, and health, like changes in health, um, can be chronic or they can be acute. And then we've got subjective, which sort of relates to how everyone experiences diseases and conditions and changes in health really differently. And that's also what the difference is between disease and illness. So, disease is like the actual thing that's happening to you, and illness is how you're experiencing it compared to someone else. So, someone else might break their leg and you might break your leg, but because you have weak bones, or like really bad joints or joint pain as well, like other things affecting your health, um, you experience that a lot worse than someone who doesn't have those other things that's going on with them. And so their experience of that same disease is going to be different to yours, and that's what illness is, your personal experience of health. And then we've got the interrelationships. So we know that when there's a question about interrelationships, not relationships, but interrelationships, we have to go from one dimension to the second dimension and then back to the first dimension. So in a circle. I don't know why I did circle like that. In a circle. Um, then we need to explain the individual and collective importance of health and well-being as a resource. We're going to get to that in a second. And then we have the global benefits. So all of that's sort of one topic. And then prerequisites. So name and define the prerequisite, whether there's a lack of the prerequisite or the presence of it. So this is like an example. So explain the effect lack of peace. Oh, explain the effect of lack of peace on the health and well-being of the community, like in a country or something like that, like in Australia or in a different country, versus explain how peace can positively influence health and well-being. So there's the first question is talking about a lack of peace, and then the second question is talking about like peace and there being and the presence of peace. So those two are different. They're going to be different concepts in like how you're phrasing your answer. So that's really important to think about and to prepare yourself for. And that definitely comes back to annotating the question and making sure that you have like the right frame when you're answering. Okay, so we've got describe and apply indicators used to measure health status. So always, always, always use the correct units and be super mindful of what you're trying to relate one indicator to in terms of like numbers and their units. So we've got per 1,000 live births for IMR, infant mortality rate, compared to per 100,000 live births for MMR. And I'm hoping these are the right ones. Yeah, because I used to think it was 10,000, but then I double checked and it was 100,000. So hopefully that is the right one. But yes, so you need to have per live births and per whichever the right, like whichever one relates to which health status indicator you're using. So 1,000, sorry, or 100,000 live births. And don't get them mixed up as well. You might lose a mark if your examiner's paying enough attention. And then you want to use data to describe and evaluate the health status of Australians. So I've got a bit of a thing here. So as time increased, so like you want to start off with time so you don't forget that. So as time increased or progressed or passed from like 1989 to Taylor Swift, 1989 to 2009. So the ending year of whichever graph you're looking at, whatever part of interest of the graph that you're looking at, and like say that there's like the bump or the rise from 1989 to 2009. You want to say the first year, so time starting at one point and then ending at another point. The like rate of 18+ year olds who smoke daily has, we'd like to think, decreased, but you know vaping is a thing now. But cigarettes, so let's say it's cigarette smoking. As time increased from 1989 to 2009, the rate of 18+ year olds who smoked cigarettes daily has decreased from like however many there were in 1999 to however many there were in 2009, and then keep going with your response. So analyze patterns in morbidity and mortality in Australians of time. Analyze health information to explain factors that contribute to variations in health status between population groups. And we're going to be looking at all of that in the coming slides. So we've got the first table. And I know I said that the buzzwords were going to be highlighted in cyan, but as a curveball and to make sure you're paying attention and keeping up, we're doing this one in yellow first. We've got the buzzwords in yellow. So these are all the ones that you want to include in your response so that you can show the examiner that you know what each of the, that you're not, so you can't just say like eating healthy increases your, like promotes physical health and well-being. You need to say it provides, like it decreases the chance of malnutrition to make you like less susceptible to diseases, making you free of disease, which means that it promotes physical health and well-being. So you need to have these basically demonstrations of understanding of each of the dimensions. So this is showing that you know what each of the dimensions like mean, and what's included, and what relates to each of the dimensions. We've got health as a resource. We've got some examples around here, and we've got these in green. So these are, so I'll sort of explain what I mean by the green highlighting now. We've got receiving an education. So they feel well enough. So an individual is healthy. They feel great. They wake up, they're ready to go. They put on their favorite movie soundtrack to feel like the main character, and then they're out the door, and then they go out and receive an education, like you guys are doing. And then they further their literacy skills, and you can add health literacy to make it super, super tailored to your response for whatever question you're answering. And then that means that they can like read health promotional information so that they can know how to take care of themselves and they can be free of disease, physical health and well-being. So that's sort of the links that you need to be making in your responses. And then this is one of the examples of a skill that they like receive an education to develop. So like when they go to school and when they're feeling well enough to attend school, an example of what they're gaining is literacy skills. And when you say health literacy, then obviously you can relate that back to um, like a part of your response for like it'll be more specific to your answer. Self-esteem, positive self-image, stable income, always a good one. And as you can see in the note, I won't go through everything, but yeah, as you can see, I've tried to highlight and color code to help you out. So hopefully that works out, and you guys can kind of see like the links that are being made and why um, different parts are really important to include in your response and like the logical sort of order. You need to have a logical order. Hopefully it's going the right way. I think this is mirrored, but it's going the right way in your response, and you're saying like the right order of cause and effect relationships that are happening from wherever you need to start in the response and whatever the question starts with to whatever it ends with. So it's like it's starting with health as a resource individually and ending with how does it benefit um, health and well-being. So you need to start with someone like an individual feeling well enough feeling well enough, or an individual having optimal health and well-being, um, or having optimal health, and then how that um, like what that relates to, and then what that relates to, and however many it sort of takes to get to a dimension of health and well-being. But also, that's sort of a skill in itself to not do what I'm doing and blabbering on, and not make too many links, like more than you need to. So that's why that's why we've been practicing this for like this main skill of like relating everything together. That's throughout the whole like year. That's throughout the whole course. This whole subject. To be able to make those links succinctly, but also say everything you need to say. So like that middle ground that you need to do. And I always struggled, like personally, if anyone's out there and they're struggling to like write out everything you need to write out, I was a very slow writer myself. So it does get better, but only through practice. So you have to keep practicing, keep doing those practice questions and practice exams, and eventually you'll find that healthy middle ground between like adding too much detail and having not enough detail. So we've got our top tips in light blue text boxes. So when you see those, definitely don't ignore them and have a look at them and really absorb them. So we've got our first tip, and it is link to income and taxation when you can, like especially for the resource questions because they're so like convenient to link to the different health and well-being dimensions as well as like human development um, indicators and like all of the different facets and parts of human development. Um, yeah, so then like your starting point, like what I was saying before, people are healthy so they can go to work, and then have an income, and then they can buy medicine or like food and they can not be malnourished, or they can contribute to the economy of the nation. Patriotism. Yeah, we love Australia. The land of, I was going to say the land of the free. That's America. Um, we are one and free. That's the one. Okay. Um, guys, I'm a citizen, I swear. Okay. Yeah, and then they can also develop the governments can then develop better healthcare systems, and then they can enable universal healthcare, so like Medicare. Um, Governments can use the income from taxation to improve like infrastructure, so parks and roads, and then like however you need to link that. Maybe you need to link that back to another part of the question that's asking you to do. Like they might be asking like, oh, health and human development, health and human development, a health and well-being dimension to like how does that how does health as a resource benefit health and well-being, national health and well-being, and human development. So you go from people being well enough to work, they can gain an income, which is then taxed, and the governments can use that. They can gain an income, um, and so the country can grow economically. And then that is a resource that's a benefit nationally. And then the government can then use that to improve parks, which can improve the quality of life, and then you relate it to a part of human development. Um, and then resource globally. I'll stop blabbering on about this one. Let's keep moving. So questions about factors contributing to variations, so like the biological, sociocultural, and geographical, environmental, that's the one. Those three, um, they usually follow quite like the same formula of questions. So you can expect to see something like explain how one factor of health may contribute to the differences in health statuses of group X and group Y. And then you follow these steps. So you identify the factor of health. You define it if you think it's necessary with the amount of marks that it's been given as a question. So how many marks it's been allocated. Then then you have to contrast the two groups regarding that health factor, and then explain and then you have the example of the subsequent impact on health. So that's your link. That's your logical sort of cause and effect relationship. Um, and then you explain the health that in terms of health status. And then contrast. So this is very important. Must have buzzwords or phrases that show you've made a contrast. So group X is more likely to have a higher MMR compared to group Y. Compared to. That has to be somewhere in your answer. So that the examiner can be super clear that yes, you've definitely compared the two. Um, okay. This is the example response. Hopefully you have that in your slides and you're looking at that now. And then we've got, like I said, in green, one of the examples. So CVD. And then increases risks of diseases. And it's got CVD, right? But it's also got that added going undiagnosed and untreated. And so like that's really important because it's super specific to access to healthcare in itself. Because like what it's saying is like and it shows the examiner that you're actually paying, you're switched on, you're paying attention to your response, and you're not just saying like increases risk of diseases, e.g. CVD. Like you've used, it's also like the go-to disease, right? CVD. CVD's everywhere. Like everything causes CVD. Um, it's a plague. Um, touch wood because we use plague a lot and we made jokes and then COVID. That's not great. So we've got the increased risk of CVD, but we've also got going undiagnosed and untreated because you're not accessing that healthcare. So you've made this response has made it really specific to the sociocultural factor of health that we're looking at in the question. Not in the question that we've chosen to look at because it hasn't said to pick a certain one. So we've chosen sociocultural factor of health, access to healthcare. We've compared the two at the start, and we've also compared with than at the end, and made it super clear. And we've also gone to an EG disease. We've got included an example, and we've also made that example specific to our factor. And then you can apply this answer structure for when you have to compare the health status and burden of disease between different groups and communities within a country, so within Australia, and between populations of/within middle and low income countries, high, middle, and low income countries. So that just means so within Australia, or between populations within a country, or populations of different countries. Because especially with middle income countries, you might be asked to you might be asked to compare different populations within that middle income country. So oh dear, I hope nothing goes wrong if I actually press a key. Okay, good. Hopefully that didn't do anything to the recording. And I also hope I'm being loud enough. So we've got the different factors, and I've included like just a list, just some links there. So hopefully that shows up well in your slides and you can read that all good. Then we've got dietary risks as well. I've added these in as well for you guys to look at. We've got some more here, and then we've moved on to topic 2. We made it, guys. You can do it. See, that wasn't that hard. We can do this. And touch wood again. Because I don't want to jinx you guys for the exam. Okay, so we've got improvements in Australia's health status since the 1900s and reasons for these improvements. Sorry, we're on area of study 2 in unit 3. And then we've got focusing on policy and practice relating to the different health models, the different models of health. Yep. And then like health promotion and everything like that. The Ottawa Charter, and the relationship between the different models of health as well, comparing and contrasting and similarities, differences, advantages, disadvantages. There's a lot of content in health, guys. It's very content heavy. Okay, so we've got Australia's health system, including Medicare, private health insurance, the PBS, and the NDIS, and then relating it to funding, sustainability, access, and equity. Funding, oh, okay. Funding is super important as well. I've got some examples of sustainability, access, and equity in the coming slides, but I don't have specifically funding, but hopefully you have that in your notes as well. Excuse me. So we've got the role of health promotion, improving population health, focusing on, and this is your case study. So this is your area of study. No, this is your like specific health risk that you guys are looking at in class currently. So I'm hoping it is, I'm pretty sure it has to be the same at all schools, that you just do the one. Obviously, if you need to, like, it's good to have examples for all of them because any sort of question might come up, like in general, but the big questions, like, that relate to that one health promotion target, so like those specific questions about smoking or road safety or skin cancer, they'll get you to choose, and that's why you've been only learning about one. So we did, at school, we did like in my class in my year, we did smoking. Um, in the previous years, they'd done road safety, but I think there was like some confusion about some of the exam questions when it came down to it, and so they changed to looking at smoking for our year. And then you've got skin cancer as well. So these are the things you need to know. These are the things that you need to know for each of those. Of for Not for each of those, but for whichever one that you're looking at in class. And also knowing knowing initiatives for each of those as well. As well as initiatives that act to improve Indigenous health and wellbeing in Australia and how they reflect the action areas of the Ottawa Charter, the social model, all of those kind of things. And then also healthy eating as well. And the dietary guidelines, Nutrition Australia, so government and non-government examples, and make sure you have like examples for both government and non-government initiatives for that. And also dietary change, challenges to dietary change as well. I think that was at the end. And then we need to analyze data. We always need to analyze data. There's always so many graphs. You turn the page, you see the graph, and you cry. We've got linking to examples from different public health models to draw conclusions about reasons for improvements. So you need to know how each of the public health models have improved health status and burden of disease in Australia over time. And then we've got Medicare, private health insurance, PBS, NDIS, and how, use tables, guys. Use tables to revise. And yeah, tables to revise this and dietary risks as well, like the sugar, salt, like fats and everything like that. It's really like visually good to use tables and mind maps to revise those kind of things. And then we've got access, sustainability, and equity. Yeah, see, I didn't include funding in here. Though those are really important to know for each of the different healthcare like sector areas and sectors, healthcare schemes. So we've got again use tables for the different biological, um, different biomedical, social, and the old models of health. We've got applying the action areas of the Ottawa Charter to a range of data and case studies, and also when you're evaluating different initiatives and programs and everything like that. We've got evaluate questions. Yeah, yeah. So evaluate questions. You need to have positive and negative points and features of each of whatever program and initiative that you're looking at in the question. So you need to have what's good about it and what's bad about it. Um, think 6 marker evaluate question. You need 2 positives and 1 point of improvement. And then because evaluate means positives, like looking at like weighing up positives and negatives, like as the action word in the question, that's what type of question it is. Like you need positives and negatives. Um, because each, like hopefully you've gone through how each like action word in a question like wants you to do like a different thing. So you've got like explain questions want you to do a certain thing, describe, outline, identify questions by themselves. They're usually like 1 markers because they just need you to identify one thing. But then evaluate, you need to look at positives and negatives. So, and that's what like that action word means. So then draw conclusions to why dietary change improvements are difficult to achieve in Australia. So all of like the reasons why it's challenging to change your diet. We've got some tables about the advantages and disadvantages of Medicare. We've got same for the private health insurance schemes, and then the PBS as well. I haven't included what is covered by Medicare and PHI. Hopefully you have tables and notes for that as well. But if not, definitely go back to your notes, go back to your PowerPoints, go back to your booklets, whatever you're using in class, go back to your teacher to ask for examples of that as well. So hopefully, like, not only is this giving you like some revision tools and like advice for answering questions and everything like that, and general like tips and tricks for health and human development, but it's also hopefully highlighting to you and pointing out to you what parts of the study design and what sort of key skills and knowledge that you're missing, and that you need to go back and fill in the gaps of a sorry. Yeah, so we've got advantages and disadvantages of the PBS and also like a bit of information about PBS and describing it. It's also important to know how to describe each of the different schemes. Like Medicare, Medicare is the universal healthcare scheme for Australians, and also partnered countries. New Zealand. We love New Zealand. Yay. Okay. Yeah. So all of the ones that have an agreement, hopefully you know like the list of ones. Like you're never going to be asked like, oh, is this person from like Dubai covered by the US um are they covered by Medicare? No, they're not going to ask you like that. They're just going to ask you, like, what is Medicare? Describe Medicare. Describe the PBS. Describe PHI. And then you need to like be able to use some buzzwords as well to describe what each of them are as schemes and what they sort of cover as well. Like you need examples of what Medicare covers, what PHI covers. Obviously, you don't need to know the specific medications that PBS doesn't cover. You just need to know that not all of them are PBS approved. And that's in terms of sustainability. Um, so, yeah, these are some of the links to sustainability, some links to equitability, and accessibility. And also definitely like annotate off of this for more links, links to like always be practicing, guys. Always be practicing. Like you see someone like fall over, like you see someone trip in class, think about how that affects their mental health and well-being, and relate that back to their spiritual health and well-being. Always be practicing, like annotate off what this relates to in terms of the health and well-being of someone who needs the medication of that like medication that's not approved by PBS, so they don't have it covered. PBS safety net gives people extra financial assistance if they require medication more often. So that's equity. It reduces their stress. It makes sure that they are free of disease. So the mental health and well-being, and physical health and well-being. All those kind of things. Always be practicing links to different things. Always be thinking about different links, especially in class. Like, um, yes, let health and human development, let the subject follow you outside of class into your everyday. But also, especially when you're in class, at least, focus, be super present in class, and try to think of different links whenever something comes up, when a new piece of content comes up. Always be thinking about, oh, okay, I'll get the ball rolling now before we like do a practice question in class. How does whatever like is up on the board relate to a dimension of health and well-being, or relate to human development, something like that. Okay, so we've got the old public health model and the new public health model, or like old public health and new public health, rather, and what each of them focuses on. So because old public health focused on infectious and contagious communicable diseases, you can use any of the words when you're describing them in your response, because that was the focus of old public health. It needed to like the things that it focused so this is the focus, and so the way that they like addressed that focus and stopped the spread of infectious and communicable contagious diseases is through addressing these points. So sanitation, safe water, nutrition, housing conditions, like ventilation. So like ventilation, you related to like tuberculosis and TB, and respiratory diseases. So like again, like always be switched on, always be thinking about links. What can I relate safe water to? Cholera. That's really aggressive. Like safe water, cholera. Sanitation, and so sanitation, like gastro, right? If there's like um, poor management of waste products, then like it's more likely to like infect, like you're more likely to spread like gastrointestinal diseases and those kind of things. Um, we've also got, yes, housing conditions like ventilation, overcrowding as well. So that obviously impacts how quickly diseases spread. And then better work conditions as well, so less injuries. Um, yeah, injuries. Yeah, because another sort of, yeah, physical environment. So literally like the physical environment around you, um, versus like the lifestyle and those kind of things that are more focused for that are more like the focus for new public health. So the physical environment was very important, and changing the physical environment to address these diseases was very important in old public health. So better work conditions, like better infrastructure, better like having railings and having safe environments, versus lifestyle and non-communicable diseases that were the focus of new public health. So think CVD, diabetes, those kind of things, those kind of conditions. And then the consideration was put on physical, sociocultural, and political environments, rather than like just the physical environment, um, and how those impacted health, so that they could address, and they can still address, non-communicable and lifestyle diseases through health promotions, especially. Okay, so we've got the biomedical model of health, and then we've got the social model of health. Key points are there, key points are there. And then, yes, so you need to think about the social, economic, environmental factors and determinants of health. In terms of the social model. Biomedical model is very much like vaccines, like the actual vaccine itself. Oh, this is a very good point. Um, Old public health, biomedical model, and social model. So biomedical, and then old and new. Social model is under new, or new is under social. No, I'm pretty sure it's social is under the new model. So this is an example that's really good to see the difference between them. Biomedical model is the vaccine and like immunizations and vaccines themselves. The old public health model is like a mass vaccination, mass immunization, like the rollout of all the think like old public health model is literally quarantine. It's literally like all the vaccines and like booster shots and everything like that. Social model is, and like the new public health and social model health promotion is like having posters, having like the policies and promotions surrounding why it's so important to have to be vaccinated. So biomedical model is the vaccine itself, so the actual health technology, the cure, the treatment, the diagnosis, so the vaccine itself. Um, Old public health is like mass immunization, quarantine, physical environment that addresses like the people around you, physical environment. To quarantine, literally like controlling your like surrounding environment. So vaccine. Then you have mass immunization and quarantine, and then like no vax no play, and like policy like around that, and like the infographics and social media campaigns, news campaigns, school health campaigns that and work like posters and like everything like that, around workplaces and schools that tell you exactly why you should get vaccinated and why it's super important to like go get vaccinated, go get your kids and your co-workers and like your family vaccinated. So that's the social model. So that's like the same sort of idea, like the same sort of part of health, so like vaccination, and how it relates to each of the different models. So that's a good one to sort of keep in mind to remember the differences, and also like just one that you can use in your answers as well. Okay, then we've got the relationship between the models. Again, I won't go into this, like I won't read it all out from here. But you've got like the very important part here, the focus as well, of course, but also the examples, because you need to have good examples in your responses. But obviously, before that, you need to have the fundamental understanding of the relationship between. So these aren't like you can't, especially like the biomedical model as well. You can't have it's almost like you can't have one without the other. They're two sides of the same coin. You need to have both, and they work in tandem. All of the models of health, less like maybe the old public health model, might be less relevant now, because our physical environment in developing countries at least has improved a lot. But back in the day, obviously, it was super useful, super important to have around, and to be in effect. All of the models of health work in tandem to, and I'm just circling because they're all interconnected and they're all a circle that works together. They're all interconnected, in uh, positively impacting health outcomes for populations. So you can't have one without the other, um, and you can't just have one when you're trying to address health concerns. You need to, so these like this is hoping to improve upstream factors. This is hoping to improve downstream factors. But if that's not terminology that you've used in class, this is affecting like the determinants of health and like prevention. This is impacting after you have the disease. Or like biomedical, it could be like preventative medication as well. But like the bare bones of it is this is treatment, and diagnosing, and this is addressing like prevention. Okay, then we've got the social model, and the five principles. So areas, or I think another one was like ideas, using the different letters. I think we used like ideas, but areas is always like a common one as well. So make sure you know the exact names for these, because you get a mark for naming these, and you'll lose a mark if you don't have the exact name. So knowing like this whole thing, this whole phrase, it's very important. Collaboration is everything, guys. We're all in this together. And I wish I could play the song, High School Musical song, over that. Have that as a little after effect, a little sound effect, but I don't have a soundboard and I can't edit this afterwards, like a YouTube video, which is sad but true. So we've got state two principles of the social model of health, and explain how they are reflected in this project as a practice question. Don't look at the answers, guys. Don't look at the answer. Try it for yourself first. But it's probably too late now. But it's never too late. It's never too late, guys. Try it yourself and then have a look. So you can come back to this and attempt. Like this is gold, guys. It's a new, never before seen practice question that you can have to try out and further your skills. Um, and like so whenever a practice question comes up, try to either pause the recording or just think in your head, I guess, if you can't be bothered. But like, resource here, practice moment for you. So if you see a practice question, like, pause and don't look at the answer, try to do it yourself, and then come back and look at the model response. So we've got a key here. We've got identifying the actual principle. We've got explaining it. So like using the buzzwords. And then we've got linking the principle to the case study. So we've got not only the example, but we've also got the link back, and using either the same or like syn synonyms of the buzzwords, to link it back and make it super tight, super cinched, together. So we'll do this one first. So it involves intersectoral collaboration. That was my go-to. I loved collaboration, guys. I love this one because it was like you could just do so much with it. Also empowering individuals and communities whenever there was like a education campaign, or um, like a skills thing where they worked with the community in question to like improve their skills and improve their health knowledge, or improve their their awareness and how to take control of their own health. Like, I found that super like applicable to a lot of different questions and a lot of different case studies. So I always went with either of these two. Yep, so we've got the program involves several organizations. Oh, in this project. Never mind, guys. You actually can't attempt this question because you don't know what the project is. That's my bad. That's on me. But the program that we can't see involves several organizations working. I'm just gonna check. Yeah, it's not on the previous slide. It involves several organizations working together to improve health outcomes through Vic Health and the Victorian government working in conjunction with each other to address peer pressure that young people may feel with respect to drinking culture. Um, Guys, you don't need to drink to have fun. You really don't. You really don't. Um, when we've got when we've got our examples here, I would even say that I would go back and change this because I liked to do government and private sector when I did the responses for involves intersectoral collaboration as well as my principle of choice. So I would do. I can't think of one right now. But if you've got I always used to do like it'd be like a question about like roads, and I'd do like, oh, like the infrastructure department in the government would work with non-government building organizations and building businesses to build better roads and safer roads and stuff like that to address um better health, like mortality rates from fatal car crashes and stuff like that. So you can do like, to make it really fleshed out as a response, you can do government and non-government sectors collaborating together, because that really shows like intersectoral collaboration, like not just the public sector, but also the private businesses, non-government businesses, all collaborating together. Okay, the Ottawa Charter, and our favorite little mnemonic, I think. Yeah, to remember. Bad cats smell dead rats. You never forget that. You actually never forget that. I still think about the dead rats and the bad cats all the time. Um, we've got the three strategies, so AIM, or however you want to remember these as well. And knowing all of the buzzwords again. Buzzwords should be in highlighted in blue, but that's okay. I forgot to do that. That's again on me. Um, we've got, so it's developed from the social model of health, and there's the definition that's associated with the Ottawa Charter. So the WHO developed this back in the day. And then, so we've got our action areas, which are super, super, super important. Um, you see more questions about the action areas, but don't forget about the strategies as well, because they're important as well. They might come up in a question, you never know. So it's important to have examples that relate to each of them. So advocating, supporting health promotion by lobbying government. So that's like trying to pass bills for like banning cigarette smoking and all of that. I think they're trying to do that in England, like Britain right now. So that was kind of cool. I don't know if it was a fake article, but it'd be cool to see if that works out and how that pans out. Um, yeah. So advocating, enabling, mediating, and then you've got the action areas. Action areas super, 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 super key to have examples for each of them with the different health risks as well. So like with your like smoking, skin cancer, and road safety. We've got distinguishing social model and Ottawa Charter. So we've got the social model of health principles here. We've got the Ottawa Charter, action areas, and the explanations as well. So there's a lot of overlap. So these are the overlaps here. But remembering that there's different buzzwords. They kind of overlap in buzzwords too. But just remembering to not confuse yourself, because you never know. Like you could be writing out your response, but then you link it back to like the social model. So it involves intersectoral collaboration instead of saying strengthening community action, or developing, or saying like develop personal skills when really you needed to write. And the question asked about the social model, and you needed to write out and link it back to empower individuals and communities, and not say this word, but say this word. We love a picky study design. Yeah, health is very nitpicky in its study design. Bio too. I remember that being the two subjects that really, like, was really stringent and strict about their buzzwords and about different like specifics when you're responding to a question. Sadly, we didn't have any, or at least my class in my school didn't have any. No, they took out all their multiple choice in health and human development, I think. So at least bio had multiple choice questions, but health does not. So it's going to be nitpicking your short answer questions and essay questions all throughout. So very enjoyable. We've got the two different types of questions relating to Indigenous health and well-being. Um, so that's another point from the study design. Initiatives that relate to promoting Indigenous health and well-being. We've got evaluate information from a case study. So like one of the initiatives that there'll be a question on. So they'll give you like a couple of paragraphs about a health initiative, and you need to link it to whatever the question asks, or evaluate it rather, to see the positives and negatives and about that case study and about that initiative and program. And two, you need to be able to relate your own knowledge of an initiative. So that's why it's important to have initiatives in your sleeves, under your sleeves, and be ready with examples of initiatives, just a couple, and link it to the Ottawa Charter. So different ways of approaching these. We've got common questions here. Sorry, when I look to the side, I'm just looking at the timer. I don't want to go over time. And I want to keep to a good pace. So we've got common Indigenous health and wellbeing questions, including that. So it includes students being provided with a case study and having to evaluate the potential. So this is how it's usually phrased: evaluate the potential of this program in improving the mental health and well-being. It won't be that specific. It'll usually be health and well-being of Indigenous Australians, and then the criteria that you need to talk about when you're evaluating any program, including like the ones for smoking, road safety, and skin cancer, all of those. These are the criteria that you can include in your responses. So think again to the 6 markers. We've got 2 points of these as points that the program does like include and address. And then you've got one. Usually I did health issues. It's not here right now, but it's in the next couple slides. I usually did something about transparency. Testimonials. That's the one. Because you're looking at the potential for it to be successful, for it to be effective as a program. And I always did testimonials to show that there was evidence that it was. So if it didn't have it in the paragraphs that described the program, that like by testimonials I mean like the quote from like a person who's been in the program. So like if a program teaches you about how to not get diabetes and type 2 diabetes, not how to prevent the onset and getting and developing type 2 diabetes, then it's got like a quote from someone who went to those classes or those night classes or those community center sessions that are held by health professionals, whatever the program might be. And then you've got that quote from the person who went there. That's a testimonial that you can use as like evidence to say that yes, the program is effective, and that's evidence, and like you're evaluating that as a point of it being effective in the potential, like that's directly showing the potential of like the person's like, oh yes, it was lovely, I now know that I should cut down on this and this so I don't get type 2 diabetes. That was a weird accent. I don't know where that came from. I don't know if it came from like inside somewhere. um Anyways, I don't know why that's the accent I chose for that particular character in that moment. But whoever she is, I wish her well in not getting type 2 diabetes. And she has given us a piece of evidence that shows that the program was successful. So you can include that. If there isn't like a quote from someone or something like that, then you can say that can be your negative, and that was my go-to negative. Like a point of improvement for the program could be advertising or having a specific section on their website or on their webpage that shows testimonials and shows evidence, shows testimonials and quotes of people who've been in the program to evidence how it is a effective program and effective initiative in addressing type 2 diabetes, the incidence of type 2 diabetes, the prevalence, and so on and so forth. Yep, so these are the criteria that you can go back to. Here is a practice question. This one we actually do have, guys. Otitis media. Nasty thing. Ear infection. Not fun. Not fun. If you've ever ruptured your eardrum, I have. Not fun. Terrible time. Getting flashbacks, guys. I'm sorry. It was a hard time. Okay. I'm not. It's super painful, guys. Go to the doctor early. Don't burst your eardrum. This has been a PSA, which is appropriate because this is health and well-being, and we're all about health promotion. So go see a doctor early if your ear starts to hurt. Not to scare anyone. Not to scare anyone. Hopefully you had a good look at that while I was reminiscing on health experiences of the ghost of health past, the ghost of ear infections past. Okay, this is the response, the model response, and for this one, I think we actually have the right key, the right highlighting and underlining, and so on and so forth. I've done it as 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 because this is all 1 mark. I'm kidding. This is not worth 1 mark. This is all 6, right? This I don't like this being here because this should technically be here, but also it should be here because you need this last sentence. Note, students must have the final evaluation sentence to receive full marks. You don't just want to end it here. You need to answer the question because you start from the get-go. If you're still at this point, really, guys, at this point in the year, if you're still starting with like the program is super effective in improving Indigenous health. There we go. Improving Indigenous health and well-being through many different aspects and many different and like in numerous ways, a plethora of ways. Don't include the fluffy start sentence. Go right into it. Hopefully, your teachers have drilled that into you by this point. And you're hopefully you're starting from the like jumping right in and saying the program can be said to be culturally appropriate. So that's one, that's buzzword right there, you know. That is our first element of an effective program. That is our first criteria that we've gone back to. So culturally appropriate, that's our first criteria point. And then we've got it provides, so it's the example. So the like, yes, I've highlighted like so again, this is what I was talking about in terms of like what I've highlighted in green. It's the actual example of like, oh, e.g. CVD, e.g. type 2 diabetes. So your examples, but also what the like links and the logic like this I've highlighted like you need to include the logic from point A to point B, so it can't just be culturally appropriate, um and then access to information, because like the green is also like the evidence from the I've also highlighted in green the bits of the case study that you want to draw from. So we've got resources in 22 different languages, in 22 different Indigenous languages about key ear health information. So that's directly from the case study. That's your like little like evidence, your quote, your example. You don't have to put it in quotation marks, but it's always good to, because it shows the examiner that you've got it, like you've taken it specifically from the case study. So use quotes, use quotation marks. Yeah, if I was to, yeah, I would go back and add quotations. So if you're annotating along, add quotation marks to the bits that come directly from here. Because then it's like super clear to you and the examiner. So when you're looking back and checking over your responses, you can see that, yes, I've got one piece of the case study here, I've got another piece here, and I've got another piece here. So that's all good. Or if it's a negative and you're talking about something it doesn't have, then you'd have like two sets of quotations for two examples from the case study. So we've got culturally appropriate because of the different languages and the variety of languages. We've also got, maybe I'll just have that here actually, so I can use, I don't have to go on the other side. And then we have like the logic. So we've got, as a result, more individuals may be able to access this information, and so the rates of otitis media within the Indigenous population may decrease, assisting more Indigenous Australians to remain free of disease, our buzzword for the dimension, promoting, and you don't just have like affecting physical health and well-being, you've got promoting, so the positive side of it, promoting physical health and well-being. Then you've got your next one. So you're talking about an action area, which is definitely a criteria, but try not to use just two different, when you're evaluating an initiative and it's not specifically said, like, evaluate this initiative in relation to its capacity to improve Indigenous health and well-being, like, in direct relation to, or like directly due to like this, like the action areas, include other ones. So just like it's not a action area question, it's an evaluate question. So you can talk about all of the other criteria. So culturally appropriate, is it well funded? Is it transparent? Does it have the testimonials? Is it yeah, is feedback, there we go, that's the point about testimonials and everything like that, and evidence. It does it meet the specific needs, and then a specific health issue, and number of people as well. So going back to your criteria and not just going with two different action areas is very important. And then your link. So you need like, that's one sentence and then another sentence to health and well-being. So that's one about the evaluation and then another one about like that link to health and well-being. Then you've got the next one. Then you've got the last one. And then you've got this very, very, very crucial end sentence because it's in purple. And so that means, look at me, look at me. I'm in a different color, so I'm important. Yeah, that's what this is communicating. The key right here, purple. Overall, this program can be said to be successful in promoting Indigenous health and well-being. that is the direct answer to this question. This is all of your like elaboration and evidence and everything, but this is actually answering the question, and you need this to get full marks. Okay. Aboriginal quitline is one of the examples of initiatives that you can use. So those are the reflections and links back to the Ottawa Charter down there for you. That's your summary up there, and then we've got another one here. So Aboriginal Road to Good Health. So those are again reflections. So this has a bit more for you down, a bit more, a couple more links. So we've got one more compared to here. So this is a good one to do as well. And then like the aim here, prevention of diabetes and other chronic diseases, so lifestyle ones, healthy lifestyles, so non-communicable diseases. We've got, and then I've just got some examples and health promotion stuff, and some links to the action areas for each. I haven't, guys, I haven't just done my own people. I haven't just done smoking, you know? I thought about all the other kids who are doing skin cancer in class, and also road safety in class. Not just the OG smoking content learning gang from my school. I don't even know if they're still doing smoking over there. But yes, we've got ones for smoking, skin cancer, and road safety. Hopefully, you guys all have ones for your own one as well, like a couple more, like not just one. It's good to have a couple under your in your sleeves, under your sleeves, within your sleeves. Some tricks are up your sleeves, up your sleeves. Yes, have a couple of different initiatives up your sleeves for each one. We had Quit, we had the app, I can't remember its name, but we had an app that we also used as a initiative, and related that to the action areas as well. Then we've got promoting healthy eating. We've got the government, so the ADGs. Please know all of these. Know all of them. Like I'm not kidding. Know all of them. Know what's included in each of them. Also know what's included in each of these sections. You need to be able to. So these are some. So the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating is based off of the ADGs. So these are the two government ones, and then we've got the Healthy Eating Pyramid and Nutrition Australia and some other we've got this, the Healthy Eating Advisory Service, so other initiatives, so this service, and we've also got National Nutrition Week as a campaign, as another service, and these two are the non-government ones. So please know them. Please know what's in each of these guidelines and what each of these guidelines cover, and then know what is in each of these wheels, know what's in the wheel, know what's in each of the pie segments. It's pie chart, clearly. And then also niche and seemingly unimportant, but you need to know what is like included outside of the main thing. Like that's a circle and that's a pyramid. But what's outside of them? We've got no added salt and sugar. We've got water, and we've got spices and things. Shouldn't have said things. We've got water here. We've got small amounts of oil and all of those, and then only sometimes and in small amounts down here. So knowing what's outside is important as well, and knowing what the differences are in terms of the government, this one, and knowing the differences between like the visual like representation of healthy eating, I guess, as a concept, and how that's different across these two visual posters and resources, the two visual resources, how they're different, what they include outside of it. So like the healthy fats are on top, you can see that, but then here, that's out here, and then you've got only sometimes and in small amounts, but you don't have that here. And so it's really important to know how to like phrase that in a question as well. So you need to use like quotations to like say, like if you want to say this, like you need quotations around like the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating has a section down the bottom, or like has visual representations and images showing in quotations foods that are in quotations only sometimes and in small. Sorry, I need to write this down. That's on me, but So the ADGs have a section at the bottom containing images of foods that should be eaten, quotations, only sometimes and in small amounts, end quote. So that's how you can like start to form how to like knowing the content and knowing what each of it looks like is fine, but you need to know how to word it in your responses. So definitely the answer is to attempt practice questions about healthy eating and promoting healthy eating and the different initiatives and health promotional resources, non-government and government. So attempting practice questions so you're better, like so you're ready to answer these questions and phrase these. Okay. Nutrition Australia, Healthy Eating Pyramid. So the differences between the government and the non-government again, and what these two, like what these ones address. So you can see like the ADGs 2 and 3 are addressed by AGHE, so the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating. This is the pyramid addressing 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and then we've got high scoring students. Hopefully you can read this. I don't know if this is hard to read on your slides. Hopefully not. Excuse me. So you've got high scoring students learn each individual layer and refer to them in their answers. So know what's, excuse me again, know what's in each of these layers, know what's in each of these little pie segments, and also what's around it and surrounding, and the specific wording as well. We've got, yes, the other initiatives here. We've got challenges and dietary change. So I've included a couple of these and some of the like EGs, some of the I haven't color coded these, but we've got the EGs next to it. So hopefully there's no confusion. Hopefully there's not too much confusion in how you would embed these and how you would include these in your responses and like the sort of logic. Again, I don't know which way it looks, but the logical order and the logical order of mentioning like all of these and the cause and effect of all of these. So full-time working parents may purchase convenience foods as opposed to cooking fresh meals from scratch, which affects like the nutrition. That was a weird way of saying it. Sorry, that was very loud. Affects the nutrition and other which affects the can affect the vitamins and mineral intake of their children and of the family, and then that can relate to poor health outcomes from like malnutrition and not having enough vitamins and minerals, like lack of vitamin C, poor immunity, more susceptible to diseases, and then like relate that to a disease, to a communicable disease. And then, yes, so we've got food insecurity, education, nutrition knowledge, and cooking skills, food marketing, time constraints, and convenience. So top tip in your response, hopefully you can see, my image might be like me, my little screen might be down here. So hopefully you can read this in your slides. Top tip, in your response, when answering questions as to why dietary change may be difficult, link to how an ADG, an Australian dietary guideline, may not be able to be achieved/addressed. So you want to not only have the example and then relate it to health and well-being, whatever you needed to relate it to. You can also like mention that it doesn't like that an ADG might not be able to be addressed and might not be positively affected or like be contributed to in terms of addressing, and might not be achieved because of that health, because of that challenge. So yeah, so like because of food security and having food insecurity, then one of the ADGs might not be achieved. And then yeah, all of that, embed that in, and that'll like beef up your response and really flesh it out. And that way you can include more content and include more depth into your response as well. And then we have key knowledge for topic 3. So the characteristics of high, middle, and low income countries, similarities and differences in health status between these different categories of countries, including Australia. So knowing where we sit in that, and also knowing where we sit. This will be more relevant to like this down here, the global trends and implications of health and well-being. Knowing actually maybe I'm thinking of geography when I did geography back in the day. I don't think so. Knowing where we sit in the ranking of CO2 emissions, maybe that was geography actually. I was, yeah, yep, I was mixing my subjects. My bad. Um, yes, knowing where like, but still relevant. Knowing that we are a contributor to global emissions, um, as a high income country, um, seeing where the middle income countries sit and what is considered a middle income country as well, and just categorizing them. And also being super mindful when you're annotating questions and reading, and being super mindful to annotate your questions so that you're not confusing like low income with high income and middle income. Because you could just be like trying to read through questions super fast and you're not realizing that you've talked about the wrong type of income country. It's done. It's been done. People did that. People did that all the time. Do I remember doing it? No. Did I do it? Maybe. I don't know. We all make mistakes, guys. But super important to annotate your questions so that you know what kind of income country you need to talk about in your response, because you could just have written a great response about like the impacts of the economic or like the conflict and mass migration as an example, like in low income countries, but you were actually supposed to talk about high income countries, and you should have talked about um, like tourism in high income countries, or like increased digital technologies in high income countries, which was more relevant to your question and would have gotten you the marks. But now that you've talked about low income countries, even though it made complete sense, you lose all your marks, and we don't want that. Okay, and then we've got factors that contribute to similarities and differences in health status and burden of disease, including sanitation, safe water. Those two very big ones. Very good to relate to like a lot of different examples and linking points. So always go tos. Poverty as well. Inequality and discrimination. Good to link to spiritual health and well-being, mental health and well-being, and social health and well-being as well. And then global distribution of and marketing of tobacco, alcohol, and processed foods as well. So that's uh, physical health and well-being. Definitely a big one for that one. But inequality and discrimination related to mass migration, conflict, and people having to leave their homes because they're being persecuted or discriminated against, and then that'll affect like all the dimensions of health. Um, because you think about refugees and everything, and then like conflict and mass migration as well. Think about refugees, and also um, you can link these together and you can use the same sort of example for both of these, same sort of examples, because you can just say mass migration conflict um, equals refugees. It does. So that's what we're saying is the representation of that. So refugees, you can also have climate crisis and climate change refugees because of changing water patterns, changing sea levels, extreme weather events, especially as well, flooding, people losing their homes, people having to move, especially from like small island nations as well. Um, and the mass migration, the refugees that result from conflict and climate change and extreme weather events, you can so you can like have the same example of refugees for both of those, and then relate that to like literally all of the different elements of human development, of health and well-being, health status, and burden of disease. Like obviously a lot of um, variety in what you can link that to. And then the concept and dimensions of sustainability. So the three dimensions: environmental, social, and economic, and and the role in the promotion of health and well-being. And human development is also one for sustainability that they like to ask about. And then the advantages and disadvantages, so like the limitations. Not yeah, better to say limitations as well, in terms of advantages versus limitations of the Human Development Index, because um, it's not a perfect tool when you're assessing the the human development levels of a country, or of a group within a country. So the concept of human development and all the different elements of that, and then the advantages and limitations of the HDR. And then global trends was down the bottom as well. So key skills, we want to be able to describe characteristics of high, middle, and low income countries. We want to be able to evaluate data. We want to analyze factors contributing to the health status. And then, yeah, those are similar ones. And then comparing health data and other information to analyze reasons for health inequalities within one nation, so different groups within the one country and between different countries. of different levels as well, of different high and middle income and low income countries. And then explaining sustainability as a concept and the different dimensions, and then its importance in the promotion of health and well-being in a global context, and then the global sustainability, like global effects of sustainability, and prioritizing sustainability and health, and then also like the interrelationship between that as well. So like how health can impact sustainability versus sustainability impacting health, and then or human development and vice versa. But that's sort of everything, especially like the SDGs once we get to it. Because SDG, like think SDG 3, how that affects SDG 2, but also how SDG 2 can affect achieving SDG 3. That's really, you can link that back to, and like also the dimension interrelationships. You can link that to a lot of, or you can apply that same sort of concept to a lot of different parts of the health and human development course. I want to say course because like uni course, but like the subject. Yeah. So you can have like a vice versa relationship, and that's why you have to be really careful when you're looking at and annotate the questions really well, and really like being really focused and being really attentive to annotating your questions so that you're not doing like the reverse of what the question is asking you. Like you're not doing how sustainability impacts health and well-being, and not how positive like health and well-being impacts like the ability to achieve sustainability or achieving social sustainability. Um, and then explaining HDI, and the usefulness in measuring human development of countries. So like knowing what the limitations are and what limits the HDI from measuring human development the best it can. And then analyzing the implications of health and well-being of particular global trends, so the ones that we saw down here. So having examples and links and different things for each of those is going to be really important. Oh, and this is stuff like social media as well, like down here. So digital technologies enable increased knowledge sharing. So just social media is included in that. Okay, my throat's starting to hurt, so we're gonna. If you've got water with you, water break. Go get some water if you don't have water. I know you all are dehydrated, staying up late, hopefully studying, but probably scrolling on your phone to avoid studying slash it's the only time you've got what is it, revenge scrolling. So like it's the only time that you get to scroll on your phone and be alone in the day. I know you all do it. Get better at sleep hygiene. Don't look at your phone before you go to sleep. What am I going to do before I go to sleep tonight? Go on my phone. But yes, we should all be trying to drink more water, which is what I'm going to do again, so we can take care of our health and well-being. We've got the characteristics of high-income countries here, and then middle-income and low-income countries are going to have varying levels of these. So, and the important thing about middle-income countries, I'm going to look at in one of the slides. I'll just go over to that now. Yes, middle-income countries are going to have more comorbidities, so both infectious and communicable diseases and lifestyle and non-communicable diseases are prevalent in middle-income countries. So they just cannot catch a break. They have both. They have both because middle-income countries have like populations, especially like different groups within and populations within the country. That's why it's middle income. Like that's a key element, key characteristic. Where there's both, like where there's a lot of disparity. There's high income communities and people and everything like that, but there's also like a lot of poverty as well. So you see both malnutrition and diabetes, and like obesity and everything. So you've got malnutrition and obesity existing, like being prevalent in the same country. So that's middle income countries. And then you've got more infectious and communicable diseases being greater focus, therefore, like it's more prevalent and more high incidence rates in and being the biggest healthcare concern in terms of health promotion as well in low income countries. So, e.g., in green, we've got cholera, typhoid, pneumonia, TB, HIV, so all the communicable infectious diseases. We've got lifestyle diseases being the biggest healthcare concern in high income countries. So, CVD, diabetes, cancers, like skin cancers from sun exposure, lung cancer from smoking, those kind of things. But smoking also middle income countries. Middle income and low income countries. Here's a little example. Lot of lot of global distribution of tobacco, alcohol, processed foods, and um, increased world trade and tourism, increased trade, increased marketing and distribution of tobacco, alcohol, and processed foods, very prevalent in middle and low income countries, and they're a big problem because there's not enough regulation like there are in high 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 income countries. There's not a lot of regulations and laws surrounding the marketing and advertisement of all of those different healthcare risks. So like they'll still have like they won't have the gruesome like health photos. I don't know if they took that away now, but from the smoking packets and cigarette packets, they won't have that. They won't have like the really scary like health photos that they do on the packaging, like, or they might, I don't know if they took them away. Um but if they still do have them um on the packaging to like deter people from smoking. That's not a requirement in low and middle income countries for them to do that legally. And then there's not as many restrictions on where you can smoke, everything like that. Um, so marketing and like distributing, there's no laws about distribution and everything like that. There might not be laws about how old you need to be to access those kind of health risk items. Um, there might not be, yeah, or like if there are, it's not like well enforced or that kind of thing, or they don't have the resources to enforce that, or the workforce to enforce that, or like the regulations, everything like that, to enforce those kind of rules and regulations surrounding like health promotion, all the policies that we look at. So that's not uh, as easily done through in middle income and low income countries, which is a barrier to health, obviously. And I was going to say something else about tobacco and global. Yes, and in middle income countries as well. So there's a lot of advertising because, like, low income countries, they'll get there. The corporations will definitely get there. Like, they'll definitely infect those areas too. But they like they get to the middle income countries. They advertise. They do all these things. No regulations. Do all that, and then they the people in those countries, in low income countries, in middle income countries especially, they might not have the as much health literacy. They might not have as many educational and health promotional resources to recognize the weight and the significance of the health risk that's posed to them by these new things that are being introduced to their country. And like I was gonna say that it's not really like relevant now. I'm saying like new things being like introduced to countries, but I mean vaping, right? Like that's not very like ancient now. Like it's a fairly recent example. So that kind of thing. Like there's not enough health yeah, like and also like the health culture, like the health promotion might not be as well received as well because of sociocultural differences as well, and not having again the ability to enforce those messages of health promotion. So that's why like all those things you need to consider for when you're responding to those questions. Then we've got the main five to focus on for factors contributing to variation: sanitation, poverty, access to clean water and access to clean and safe water, global marketing and distribution, and then inequality and discrimination. So a couple of and then the examples that I was referring to before. Then we've got the dimensions of sustainability, and we've got the social, economic, environmental dimensions. And then we've just got descriptions here. I've just described them here, and some examples maybe, kind of, not really. But the key to sustainability is the definition down here. Text box, light blue. Very important information in the light blue boxes. So we've got sustainability is ensuring future generations can access resources to meet their needs without compromising the ability of current generations to meeting their own needs. So we want health. We want our kids to also have health. We want future generations to also have health. So we want health, and we need to make sure that future generations can also have health and access health resources and meet their own needs without without compromising our own ability to access those same health needs and access those same resources to meet our own positive health outcomes as well. We've got human development, human dev, and the HDI. We've got the dimensions and the indicators down here. So these are the indicators in blue, or in blue, periwinkle blue. We've got the life expectancy at birth being related to this dimension, and then these two are related to knowledge, and then gross national incomes, GNI per capita, being related to decent standard of living. Obviously, like this kind of obvious, these ones. There are links in between, so there's a few more steps in getting to decent standard of living from gross income, but there's also not, because we've seen how the cost of living has rose and how the standard of living has been impacted. So yeah, not much of a gap in our link between nowadays, but just knowing that when you're responding to a question and when you're writing out your answer, that you need to talk about an extra example, and you need to have an extra link between GNI and standard of living. I think I'm running out of battery. That's not good. Oh no. We've got the advantages of the HDI here, expressed in a single statistic, so enabling easy comparison, easy to measure a country's progress over time, and then considers factors beyond just income, and then presenting a more comprehensive view of human development. We've got the disadvantages down there as well. Okay, then we've got key knowledge, key skills. Hopefully you'll be able to read that. I'm trying to beat my charger needs. I might phone a friend to get my charger, but in the meantime, we can look at the pretty SDGs. But these are the ones. Luckily, we don't need to know all of them. And so then we've got. So what are the SDGs? So I'll let you have a brief read while I holler for a charger. Okay, and then we've got the rationale. So you need to know this word for word, but no, you don't. So you don't need to know this word for word, but it helps to have a particular wording memorized. And then we've got we've got the three. So we've got building on the MDGs, so the Millennium Development Goals. I think that's what they stand for. Millennium Development Goals expired in 2015. So we needed new ones. So the SDGs are the next generation of development goals and the progress that we're working towards. So it's replacing the old ones because they expired, and then we've got new ones, especially as well. We've got which links in. So the next point, we're addressing new global challenges like conflict, migration, extremism, and the climate crisis as well. So we needed to develop new plans and strategies and reprioritize stuff for that. Then we've got progress being uneven across the world. So we've realized that there's disparity and we need to address that. Objectives, we've got the 3 objectives. You need to know both of the rationale, you need to know both the rationale and the objectives of the SDGs, and they're often going to be identify questions. And then we've got relationships between SDG 3 and the SDGs. So that illustrates collaboration between the health sector and other sectors in working towards health-related goals. So basically, there are many sectors that can be related to each SDG. Some sectors other than the health one include all of these, and I'll let you again have a read while I grab my charger. Okay. And we're back. I just don't want to risk pausing the recording, so we're just going to do this instead. And that's the wrong charger, so we're going to go to another one. And the features of the 3rd SDG are very important, so I'll let you have a read of that. And we're back. Spice up the bit of excitement for the plot thickens. Very climactic stuff today. There we go. Oh, I haven't done that. It's probably fine. We've got the SDG 3 features here. Then we've got answering questions about the SDGs. And so for each of these types of questions, we want to have a link to a different aspect. And then, so when you need to address how it promotes human development, link one aspect of the SDG to one element of the human development definition. So one of the different parts of and elements of human development. Then we've got health and well-being. We've got how one relates to another, but also how SDG 3 especially relates to promote another SDG, and how another SDG works to promote SDG 3. So what I was saying about like the vice versa relationships before. So having examples for both ways is super important. And then why one SDG is important. And then one, like identifying it from information provided, like a case study. Okay, so we've got SDG 1 being no poverty. We've got SDG 2 being zero hunger. We've got quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, and then climate action. So the last one that we need to know. Then we've got the WHO. Who? The WHO. The jokes decline as you get further into the recording, I'm sorry to say. But that's not saying much because they weren't up here in the first place. We've got the description of the WHO as an organization, as a body of the UN. We've got its mission. So knowing these 3, word for word, like it's not, like just have them in your head. These 3, they're not super long things to remember, phrases and bits to remember. So the mission is here. Then we've got the 3 strategic priorities. These are super important to know word for word. So you need to know these phrases word for word. And then we've got achieving universal health coverage as the first priority. And then we've got the different points and topics and different ways of doing and of achieving this down here. And then when you're answering a question about it, you want to pick one of these if it's a 2-mark question, and plus an example of like the topic of the point and the strategy, the way of doing it. You want to use an example and then elaborate on everything, link it together, and that's a 2-marker. And then if it's a 4-mark question, you want to pick 2 and then examples for each of them, and then so on. And then again, same thing for the next priority. It has 2 main focuses. So it's got building resilience then access to life-saving services. Green are your examples here. So I've done a bit more for these and elaborated. There's a bit more elaboration on this compared to for each of these. So find your own examples. No, so make sure you have collected examples for each of these, and then you can use these. You can use the ones that you've learned about as well in class for these two main focuses of this priority. And then if it is a 2-mark question on one topic, write about 2 different examples. So what I mean by that is if it's a 2-mark question, but it's on like building resilience, which I don't know if that'll come up a lot, but if it is on building resilience, and if it's on a specific focus, then definitely go into like it in more depth as you do and use 2 different examples just to hedge your bets and make sure you're getting like you're maximizing your marks. Okay, then we've got examples and links for health emergencies. So natural disasters and then outbreaks of communicable diseases as our 2 sort of like factions. Flowchart here for your convenience. And the message is overall the WHO can only address the health emergencies that they have a bearing over. Okay, so then our third, last but not least, priority of the WHO is promoting healthier populations. So we've got our topics again here, and again, talk about for 2 marks versus 4 marks versus 6, 8, blah, blah, etc., etc. Then we've got a couple of slides about some of these. So we've got our first one, so improving human capital across the life course. We've got a slide on here. So that's sort of the definition of human capital, like what it sort of means. Oh, this is annoying me. I should fix this. And then we've got the WHO and the current focus being children, adolescents, and women, as these are the most disadvantaged groups when it comes to employability. So they're really focused on equity, which we love. Equity is the way to go, and what's super important in health and health outcomes. Equity, equity, equity everywhere. So that's a soundbite. Okay, so then we've got from the WHO a little message from the WHO. People are at the peak of their potential ability at early and later childhood and adolescence. So we can look at the graph here as well to see that. So that's why the WHO focuses on these population groups to promote healthier populations. Then we've got tackling antimicrobial, again, the formatting. But yeah, I'll fix that for next time. Tackling antimicrobial resistance. Though that's our sort of a description of what that means and like a definition and explanation of what that actually means. So it means that like medications don't work as well because we've used it too much, and it's like they figured out how to bypass it. They know how to hack into our mainframe, despite the mainframe being antibiotics and everything like that. So antimicrobial resistance is also called antibiotic resistance. So they've hacked into the mainframe. Hacker voice, they're in. I'm using like 3-year-old memes. I'm sorry, these memes are old. But how it happens: consistent lack of hygiene or overuse of medication. So you're using. Oh my god, why is my battery running low? I have plugged in my PC. I have, I swear. I'm so confused. This is fine. Okay. What the WHO is prioritizing. So research and promoting hygienic practices. Okay, so the WHO works in a number of different ways. Okay, there we go. I fixed it. I'm an IT. Just call me your IT go-to. That means nothing. So the WHO works in a number of different ways to ensure their priorities are completed to the utmost standard. Some of the ways include, and these are the different works of the WHO. So there's 6 that you need to sort of know, but you only really need to know 2-ish for the exam and to be covered for when you're asked questions about this topic. So you don't need to know these word for word. My go-tos were providing practical, tailored advice and monitoring trends. But it really depends on like, so like have your go-tos, but always look out for what fits the question the best. So I did end up putting this little tip down here. obviously like know the name, and like that'll come from knowing the name. So knowing like this first red bit to like prompt your knowledge about the rest. Like if you remember the first sort of bits about each of them, then if you see that one of them that isn't your go-tos would relate better to your question and to your case study that they've given you or whatever they've given you, then obviously elaborate on that and use that. So you don't need to know the different works word for word. That just means that you won't like lose a mark if you've not said this whole sentence, right? When you're identifying the work. It just means that you need to know like sort of the first little bit. And then therefore like you can like you'll remember what it sort of entails and what it covers, and what kind of examples to like relate them to. So conducting research like vaccine research or whatever you need to use in your question. Um, so obviously having your go-tos to make it easier, to decreasing that mental load, becoming more like muscle memory in knowing what to write for each question, but also remembering that like you need to know a little bit, or like you need to know the names, um, not word for word definitions, but like just the names of the other ones as well, so that you might need to use them for when the question works better with one of them, one of the other ones that aren't the ones that you always go to. So must name the type of work in your response. You have to name the type, but you don't have to do it like completely word for word definition. Then we've got you just need to be able to describe it. Then we've got the emergency, bilateral, and multilateral types of foreign aid. So those are the descriptions down there. And then we've got the priorities. Oh, again, that formatting. That's it hurts me. It does. Oh, we're running out of time, guys. But we've got the priorities of Australian foreign aid down here. So they're different features. You can remember them with the acronym BEIGE A. So you must know these verbatim. So you need to know them like word for word. So as part of the key skills, you have to be able to understand these and identify these from the question, from the STEM, from the case study, from the type of foreign aid that's described, and explain how they are reflected within that type of aid that's being given to you in the question. So the types of partnerships that are involved below. Yes, and then we'll keep going. So we've got the priority area, and this is like a slide that'll give you some examples, and those are like the buzzwords here, and any other buzzwords that you've been specifically pointed out in class as well. To know them very well is important as well. Knowing these examples, you've probably got more newer examples and more recent examples for the different types of foreign aid, and maybe ones related to COVID as well. But definitely make sure you have examples of the different priority aid areas. And then we've got features of effective aid programs. So let me log back into my timer. So the most straightforward is the following 4 ways. So these following 4: results focused, ownership, transparency and accountability, and partnership. So remembering, these are worth 6 marks. These will be worth 6 marks, and the questions are usually evaluate, meaning the answer can be no to one or more of these like red questions, or like points, the purple points. And there is room for, and there might be, so like the answer can be no, and there could be room for improvement in one of these like 4 points. And then I should have just made it so my phone doesn't lock. That's what I did for the Taylor Swift tickets. Did that help me? No. If you've got if you out there have Taylor Swift tickets from the Melbourne, and I don't know why you'd have Sydney. You could have Sydney. If you have them for the shows, then Godspeed. I'm so happy for you, and I hope you have the best time at Taylor's concerts. We pray for resale. Wait, it's September. It's the end of September. Resale is supposed to start. Let's see if you see me at the Eras tour in Feb. We can only dream. We can only pray. This is a practice question. Hopefully in my Taylor Swift rambling you were able to read through it. Unless you are a Swiftie, then maybe you were listening to me lamenting my loss of tickets. But if not, then you were able to read through the practice question and maybe have a think about what you would include in your response when you're evaluating the effectiveness of the Oxfam Aid program in promoting health and well-being. So health and well-being, our dimensions, that's what we need to link to. And here is our practice response. Here's our model response. So I'll let you have a read of that in your own time as well. I've done it as a 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2 breakdown instead of 1 to 6 because like that's your 1 mark, that's your second mark. Then you use that, then you use that, and then you can use that, and then you can use that. Mix and match of both. But because it's an evaluate question, you need to have a negative point, and this was my go-to. So transparency as the fourth sort of point. Oh dear, I'll go back. Yeah, fourth point. And then the program could have a part of their website which regularly updates how and where their funds are being allocated. And then also you have, so that's your transparency point. And then you must have a last sentence. That last sentence there, your last link sentence, summary sentence, conclusion sentence, link back, so that you're actually answering the question, the initial question being asked. How to answer Unit 3 questions. In our last 10 minutes, we're going to go over how to answer certain questions from the different areas of study and also general exam tips as well. So we've got health and well-being questions linked to one of the 5 dimensions. We've got the indicators of health status for health status questions, and BOD is the YLL, YLDs or dailies. Dailies is the addition of those, so the sum. And then yeah, just have a read of what your go-tos are for all of these types of questions and what you should link to and refer to. Then we've got more Unit 3 questions. We've got sustainability, Unit 3. That should be Unit 4 up there, but that's okay. You know that, and I know that. I know that, and you know that this is actually Unit 4 questions. Sustainability, human development, HDI, climate change, SCG3, SCG, mystery, question mark, and then the WHO's strategic priorities as well. So these are your go-to strategies, your go-to plans of attack for each of these kind of question topics that are going to come up and parts of the study design that you can be asked about. So if you're asked about climate change, so you link your answer back to 3 elements and 3 impacts of climate change that are really good to link to like human development and health and well-being, health status, anything that you need to link to in the question. So rising sea levels, more extreme weather events, and changing weather patterns. Then we've got how to answer the 8 to 14 marker. I've got a bit of a maths breakdown down here. And we've heard of girl maths from TikTok, potentially. Or you might hear about it in a month from now on Instagram Reels. But we've got a bit of a maths breakdown. So this is health and human. You've heard of girl maths. This is HHD maths. This is health and human development maths right here. If you've got a 12 marker, that dreaded essay question, you're looking at it, you're staring at it, you have the urge to cry in the exam. Don't. Because we've done this, we've broken it down right here in this lecture, so you don't need to panic. We've got 2 marks per similarity and difference from this question up here. So similarities and or differences. Pause and read to read the question. I won't read it out right now. We've got 2 marks per similarity per difference. Then similarity within plus a difference within the country. So similarity within populations in the country. Then a difference within populations in the country for health status due to oral diseases. And then similarity between countries. And then difference between countries. Between countries, yeah. That's 8 marks altogether. Maths, 2, 2, 2, 2, 8. And then we've got 2 marks per health promotion, which is the second part of the question, or like the next sort of part of the question. There's so many parts of the question, you know? It's very confusing, but we've broken it down, so it's not confusing, and it doesn't, it's not daunting to you when you look at it. So you just have to break it down. You just have to annotate and break down the different parts of the question, make a plan, like not in the margins, like just next to it, so you know how you're going to like answer the question and what you need to cover, and how you're going to sequence everything. So we've got 2 marks then per health promotion. So health promotion in low income, and then health promotion in high income countries. Oh, that should say countries. So together that's 4. 4 plus 8, 12. We've done it. Move on to coming back to the questions that you've probably left this to the end. I know I did, I think. I left it towards the end, and then I could go back and finish answering questions and go to the extra space or finish answering questions that I didn't um, get to finish or add details that I didn't get to add in other parts of the exam. So you've done it, and you've broken it down, you've answered the question, you've written it all out, you've gone back to the sources, you've used as many of the sources as you can, try and use them all, try and refer to all of them. You've used quotation marks to say, and like you've used brackets to say source A, source B, or source 1, source 2. Remember that, that's super important. You've signposted everything, you've done the paragraphs, you've done the paragraphs that make sense, you've made it all cohesive, you've written it in the right order, and now you can move back. You've moved on. You've left the 18, no way, the 8 to 14 marker behind you, and you can go back to the other questions in the exam. You've got your list of examples here. I know I keep clicking my lips, clicking my tongue. It's just a habit when you talk too much. You've got your list of examples, disease examples here. So the different categories as well. And that's going to be super important when you want to relate to like sanitation versus like and like ventilation, like poor ventilation in an area, or crowding or overcrowding versus like clean water. So knowing that, how much time do we have? 5 minutes, 4 minutes, something like that. So how to answer when you have a brain freeze. We've all been there. We've all been there. We just freeze, like our pen's like this, and you're like, no, I had a line of thought. Where was I going with this? This is a good two sort of techniques that we suggest as the ATAR Notes team, as the ATAR Notes family. We suggest going back and going back to these backup plans and these sort of links to get back on track. And if you're struggling to think of examples and think of links, then funding and also tax, income, all of those, like money, 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 play. I see, this is where I would put the ABBA song as well. Like if only I had a little soundboard with me. Or I could edit this after, but sadly no. We've got shifting and funding methods, and we have income, tax, economy, like all of those kind of things, and funding, health promotion, funding, infrastructure, all of those kind of things. Like you can go back to money and funding as a very good link fallback and a link backup plan. Your safety net, if you will, your safety net for answering those questions. Your fallback can be money, can be income, funding, all of those. And then this one down here as well. And then tips for the exam. You can read through these. How much time do I have? We're running out of time, guys. My favorite tip out of all of these, apart from sleeping very well and eating a very nutritious breakfast, and not like, guys, if you want to talk to your friends before the exam, but if you have, like, we all have those certain friends that like make you super nervous and keep asking you questions. To be fair, I ask people questions. I was the one stressing before the exam. But try to stay away from people that stress you out before the exam, you know? Walk around for 20 minutes, just clear your head, be the main character, walk around like the oval next to your like exam hall or wherever you're doing the test. Walk around the classrooms or the hallways around and like reflect on your time at school and all of your years right before the exam. But don't get too emo, don't get too emotional before the exam. But yeah, taking a de-stressing walk is super useful as well. And then so we've got Mozart, we've got some data, you know, some data-based, evidence-based tips here to listen to Mozart sonat. I didn't say that right, did I? For two pianos in D, for recall and application. Stimulates parts of the brain that do that. But I personally love listening to. I literally did this today for a uni assignment. I loved listening to movie scores and background music from like movies and like childhood movies like Narnia, Lord of the Rings, even Robots. If anyone remembers that crazy movie, from the 2010s. I think it was 2010s. And that crazy movie. I think Mike's Mike did a guys watch Mike's Mike on YouTube. They do. He has really good videos, and I'm running out of time. Blabbering too much, guys. Hopefully you found something useful out of my health and human development and or other blabbering. I love listening to the like classical music, like the background music from the movies, so I feel like the main character. But no, in a less annoying way, to feel like really focused, and to not get too bogged down on um, like the like by that point you're kind of sick of saying therefore every second line of your responses, like therefore this does this, therefore health and human, therefore like positive physical health and well-being, and you just want to like lift your spirits. So the music helped with that. We've got more exam tips here. Reading time. Use it wisely. Read the exam in full. Allocate the marking scheme. Sorry. Note the allocated marking scheme of each question. So how many marks each, especially the 14, 12 marker. I think we had a 10 or 12 marker. Or no, I think it was an 8 marker. They were nice. Because COVID, I guess. And then determine an order of doing the exam. I did the shorter ones first, and then I went to the longer mark questions. Then some marks, lines per mark here. Physical paper. So write outside of the lines, but don't go over the margins. This is a handy guide of how you should use the extra space. So on the actual question page, and then when you get to the back, so you need to note it down. So say that back page from this end of the question on the actual page of the relevant page. Then go to the extra page and then label what the question number was. Yeah, start with the shorter questions first is what that says. I think I'm over time already, but you can stay for a couple minutes. Read everything during reading time. Don't be that person. Don't be this person. Don't be this guy. Don't be this guy. Although I love the color of that jumpsuit. You know, jumpsuit. Yeah, athletic wear. Don't be this guy. Don't forget. Don't not read a question at the back of the paper page. If you see a question you know is supposed to be an even number of marks and it's odd, go the number above. So if it's a 5 marker, go make it a 6 marker. Write it as if it was a 6 marker. Then the example down the bottom. Then we've got some more tips. Then we've got, make sure everything's super clear for the examiner. And then your last tip, sometimes you can make an initiative up. They're not going to fact check every initiative. Please don't do that. Please don't, it's harder. It's harder to do that. It's harder to make something up. That's only if you forget. It's really hard to do that. So make sure you have like your initiatives. And you know how to link it to everything you need to link it to. These are some inspirations for, this is some inspiration for revision. Like I said, SDG3 to SDG4 and then SDG4 back to SDG3. Evaluating, these are the criteria that we used, that we talked about as well. And then funding, Medicare funding, like those kind of little sticky notes. And I use like big, the big cue cards, like the big system cards. That's what I used for like bigger ones, and then I'd cut them in half for smaller ones, for smaller content points. Tables galore, tables everywhere. Use them to revise everything. The dietary risks, the models, your smoking, your case study, and then Indigenous health and Indigenous Australian health and Ottawa Charter. And then we've reached the end. Thanks for watching, everyone, and all the best for the grind to come, which you can I should have said something more because you can all read. We're all cheering you on. We really are. The A-Town Notes family is cheering you on. Yes, and don't forget at the start we had some info about our different resources. Take a look at our website. And yeah, utilize all of our resources on there. If you're taking our classes as well, like it'll get to our revision classes soon. Private tutoring as well, like your tutors will be getting down to the last few lessons of and last few revision sort of sessions. But yes, all the best. And if you have any other questions, I think you can email me. I think my email is somewhere in the slides, maybe somewhere down below. If it's not, then remember to use the live chat function to ask me any questions. Okay, bye everyone.